Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a review, or mainly unboxing, of the Xiegu X5105 QRP radio. To give a bit of background on what I've been doing, I've been looking for a QRP radio that I can take out portable. We go camping often, and also I'd like to do parks on the air and potentially SOTA as well. So I've been looking for a QRP radio for quite some time, and there's been two issues: what sort of features they have, and also what sort of cost they are. The ones I've looked into are the Yaesu 817, ICOM's 703, which is an older rig now, Elecraft KX3 and KX2, also the KX1, which is the Morse code only portable radio, QRP radio from them, QRP Labs QCX. There's one called an SW3B, which is a Chinese made radio, and the mountain toppers, usually from L&R Precision, although I do believe there's somewhere that you can buy kits for those radios. So those are the ones I've been thinking about. Obviously there's some more modern radios like the ICOM 705 that have come out recently, but again, cost is the issue, and I'm not keen on the big boxy screens and things like that, to be honest. So that's not really been one that I've yearned for. Cost is a big issue as well. Some of these radios are over £1,000, going to £2,000. That's British pounds. I'm sure in dollars it's $1,000 to $2,000 equivalent roughly. So I was looking to potentially pick one up used, rather than spend that kind of money on a new one. I can't really justify that kind of cost for something I'd take out every now and again. So a couple of things I was looking for in particular is something with an internal battery, so I didn't have to carry about a separate battery. When we go camping, space in the car is at a premium, so it needs to be something very small and handy. And for this, I originally looked at the Yaesu 817. It's a nice compact radio, small, lightweight. You can get an internal battery for it, particularly there's an aftermarket one that's significantly better than the original one. So that was something I was looking at. I do have a few friends that have them and have been very pleased with them. The downsides are that used, they're still sort of fairly expensive, and they were made years ago, so they're missing some features that I would prefer to have. So internal battery being the main thing I was after, which it can have, but also an internal antenna matching unit or an internal antenna tuner would be nice. I do have resonant dipoles, but in the event that there was some sort of issue, it would be nice to be able to tune it. So that was an important thing. I have built a separate external tuner, and you can buy external tuners, but again, I was trying to avoid having to carry something with me. Also, DSP would be nice, some sort of noise reduction and filtering. One of the problems with the 817 is it doesn't have an internal tuner, and it doesn't have any kind of real filtering apart from an optional 500 Hz filter that you can get for Morse, for CW, and you can get a narrower filter for SSB, but that's it. Just one option, and it is what it is. In this day and age, really, it'd be nice to have a bit more flexibility than that. But it wasn't a deal breaker, but it would be nice. So I looked at the ICOM 703. They're fairly rare in the areas that I live to come across one, unfortunately. And again, the size, it was bigger, heavier, and again, it did have an antenna matching unit, but I don't believe it was very wide in its ability to match. So again, less impressed with that. I've never used one. I couldn't really find anybody who's got one to borrow. So again, that's unfortunately on the short list, but no experience there. I then looked into the Elecraft radios. Now I have had experience with both of those. I've not bought one myself. I don't own one, but I've got a few friends that have got them, and I've had a good play with them for many hours and days. I do have a friend who I helped build it and get it working, and I must have had it for a few weeks probably, and I'm fairly familiar with it. That was a KX3. so I'm familiar with the size, the weight, the DSP on it, things like that. So nice things to have. Although I have to say the DSP and the noise reduction perhaps weren't as impressive as I thought. Often you see videos showing this miraculous result in noise reduction. I found when I tested it that rarely did it give that big of a difference. It did help in some certain circumstances, but it wasn't something that knocked the noise down completely, and you just heard this lovely voice. Um, in one way and another, it just exchanged the background noise for this sort of watery artifact that you get with some DSP systems. So I wasn't as impressed as I thought I would be, but it was, I think it was a nice thing to have, but perhaps not the be all end all. And KX2 obviously very similar, just a smaller, more compact package. Doesn't have 160 meters and it doesn't have 6 meters, but it does 80 through to 10 meters, which would be fine for HF portable. The KX3 does 160 and 6 meters, and the 817 does as well. The 817 does do 2 meters and 70 centimeter bands as well, but I'd just be using it for HF, so no issue there. Next, I looked at the QRP Labs QCX. Now, this is a single band, Morse code only transceiver. I think it would be lovely to build as a kit, fits in the palm of your hand, very capable, but it was a little too restrictive. I almost hit the button on it several times, but didn't in the end because I felt that it was too restrictive. Which band do you pick? I probably would have gone for 40 meters, but again, it's very restrictive as to what you can do. And I currently have a Sotabeams dipole, linked dipole, 3-band, the band hopper, I believe it's called, and I really wanted to be able to utilise all those 3 bands, 20, 30 and 40 meters on that. So a QRP Labs QCX, unless I bought 3 of them and had one for each band, which ironically wouldn't be that expensive. I didn't quite feel it was everything I wanted. I am heavily focused on CW at the moment, but SSB, it's nice to be able to talk as well as CW. So while it's a fantastic thing, I think it was too restrictive for what I was after. I think we are still anticipating a QSX from QRP Labs from Hans, but it's not quite there yet. But that will do all the bands and all the modes and everything else, but not it's not here at this point in time. I did look at something called an SW3B, and this is a Chinese-made radio. I've heard great things about it, and again, that does 20, 30 and 40 meters. Reasonable price for it, and it does seem to be very capable from what I've seen. Again, it's Morse code only, and it does receive SSB. I felt that this, again, was still a bit restrictive. It would be nice to have SSB to transmit as well. And likewise for the Elecraft KX1, I thought with the age of it, they might be going for good prices. And again, it's CW only. There's several bands it can do with optional extra modules. But unfortunately, they're going for horrific prices on online at the moment. So it was out of my price range really for what capabilities it had. But another great radio if you're looking for CW only, and they have very low current draw, particularly on receive. So I was starting to worry a bit because I feel like perhaps my expectations are too high, my budget's too low, as we all experience. I'd looked at the Mountain Topper range as well from L&R Precision, and they do some lovely little radios that fit in your pocket. Morse code only again, multiple band, which is great. I was encouraged by that, but they are again expensive really for something that does 2 or 3 bands. And I think if I was looking for a radio of that capability, the SW3B would probably be the one I'd go for. It's a lot less money, about half the cost, and does all 3 bands, and again it's got good reviews. So I was at a bit of a loss really, because I couldn't really find something that did everything I wanted, thinking to the future as well. I want something that's going to last me. I don't want something that's only going to be short term and then sort of not perform in the near future. Again, the Elecraft models do everything I want for the most part, but cost is a scary thing with those. So, having looked into all those, and as I say, I've used a lot of them often, I was still stumped as to what to go for. For a while now, I've been hoping that one of the Elecraft models would come up as a cheap deal online, and unfortunately, there's no such thing. They all seem to keep the value very well, which is a good sign, really. But yes, there wasn't anything that came up that really suited what I was after. So, what did I consider after all this? Well, I had actually seen a few Xiegu products, and I know I'm mispronouncing that. Is it Xiegu? Something like that, I think. I do have a friend that speaks Chinese, and he did say it to me, but I'm not an expert on Chinese, unfortunately. But I'd heard good things about a few of their models. G90 in particular had come out recently, and it does 20 watts, which I thought was perhaps a good idea. Maybe 5 watts is too little, particularly on voice modes. But it's a bit of a it's quite a big thing and a heavy looking item. Other than that, though, I really liked all the features it had. The antenna tuner is meant to be really good on those, very broad in its range, 20 watts of power, a very small LCD screen, but gives a lot of useful information, particularly with the digital signal processing and noise reduction, etc. Very capable, an SDR radio essentially. Very reasonable price. I was impressed with that. And the only thing really was the receive current was a bit high. It seemed to be 500 or 600 milliamps, which probably isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things, but it was perhaps a bit more than ideally I was hoping for. But this was, I think, a good option. And again, I suddenly thought I could see myself using this. I think this might be the way to go. Having looked a bit further into the company, I found that they did the X5105, and that's what I ended up buying. I bought it from a company here in the UK called Sinatel. I ordered it, I might hopefully get this right, I think it was a Sunday evening I ordered it, and it arrived Tuesday morning, so overnight shipping effectively. So I'd like to give a big thank you to Sinatel. Excellent service. I had a few questions I'd sent to them and they answered them almost immediately. So if you're in the UK, I'd highly recommend using them. Comes with a 2-year warranty, so you've got some support there in case there's any problems. So thank you to them again for good service. So I've got in front of me the box that it came in, and I've opened it up just to make sure everything's there and there's nothing damaged. But other than that, I've not really done anything with it. I've switched it on to make sure it's got power for this review, and basically what I'm going to do is set the video going here, and through the separate video I'm going to show you what it came with. So let me just switch over to the screen here, so hopefully you're seeing what I'm seeing. And this is the box it came in, nice sturdy box. Inside we've got foam coverings, and this foam covering just lifts off. Inside we've got what looks like a warranty card in Chinese, and this basically essentially is a warranty card, I think, with the information on there. Yep, so when it was built or whatever, so that's great. We've got the owner's manual here, which we'll have a look at a bit more detail in a second. Let me just put that to the side. Right, inside here we've got a data cable. This obviously connects to the radio and to the computer, so that's interesting and useful. We've got a power cable. Now, I was warned about this, that this actually comes with a power cable that's not got any connectors on one end. So it's got a connector for the radio itself, a fuse, inline fuse, and then 2 bare ends that you can connect to whatever type of fitting you want. And this is good because I use power poles for everything, so I can connect this to a power pole connector that I've got connected to my power supply, and therefore, you know, I can just connect it into the system I already have set up. Next we have the so this is the microphone cable, with these fittings on either end. I don't think there's any. Oh, there's a pen in here, free pen. That's good. And it's got inches and centimetres on the side in case. Oh, and a spirit level. Look at that. Very cool. And the Xiegu, is it the Xiegu logo on there? Right, brilliant. Very nice. So in here, just looking at the shape here, I can see that this is a microphone shaped hole. So let's open this out. Here's the microphone. Very reminiscent of an Icon microphone, although I've not owned one. I do know they look similar to this. A way of hanging it there, very good. And obviously the connector, the cable connects in there. So that's easy enough. There. Okay. Next we've got the radio itself. Actually, let's get that out of the way. So the radio, bear with me. Okay, it's in this bag. And first impressions are, bear with me, sorry about this. Let me move the box out of the way. Okay, first impressions, it's hefty. Not heavy, but hefty. It's roughly hand-sized. It's actually more compact than I thought. Looking at the photos of this, it looks like a very large index card sized thing, and I would say this is probably index card sized, and if we look at it in comparison, it is quite a bit smaller than that. So it is a compact radio. I would say this is sort of KX3 size. It's smaller than a KX, it's KX2 sized. I'd say this is smaller than a KX3, certainly shorter, probably similar in the other dimensions, about as thick, about as deep as a KX3, but shorter maybe. I think maybe an inch shorter, roughly. I don't have the specs in front of me, but that's just a feel from when I've used the others. Okay, so let's look on the sides here. On the left-hand side, we've got a BNC connector, which is ubiquitous for the QRP radios. We've got this, which I believe is an IF out connection, so you can run some sort of pan adapter. We have an external speaker connection and the power connector or connection. And this is DC, I believe it's 13.8 volts and up to 3 amps. So I can connect that to my 13.8 volt power supply that produces, I think, up to 10 amps, and obviously it will just take what it needs. Looking at the other side, here we have an accessory connector, presumably for some sort of data, Morse key, ATU, so if you run an external ATU, this can signal it to tune. Comms, some sort of comms, so presumably that's your data modes connected in there, and the microphone jack. You'll also notice actually on the edge here there are legs on this which are very strong metal. This is quite thick metal, you'll notice, and it clicks down into place out the way. When you lift it up, there is actually a mechanism, I don't know if you can see it just in here. There's a little sort of ball bearing thing or finger that actually clicks it into place and holds it. I was really impressed with that actually. I think that's really nice detail, very quality fit and finish with that. On the back, very little really, the usual warnings and certifications. You'll notice the fit and finish is very good. One thing I have to perhaps critique about Elecraft is with their clamshell type designs, I found the fit and finish was a bit, I don't know, I got the feeling that it was a bit gappy, in that it was two metal pieces that sort of slid together, but it wasn't precision fit, it was a bit sort of clunky. I don't know if that's just my feeling of it or whether it's really a fair description, but that's the feeling I got with the fit and finish. It was sort of sheet metal banged in shape and that sort of thing, whereas this feels a proper machined finish, very tight tolerances. We've got this piece underneath which is the heat sink, And one issue with the KX2s I've heard of is that they overheat when running data modes at 5 watts. I've heard that this one doesn't. I've not really looked at a lot of reviews, but I've seen a few, mainly looking for any known issues, and there were very few, but some of the comments were people that use Elecraft items, and they were commenting on, the benefits of this over them. So I was quite pleased with that, considering the price. This is less than half the price of the Elecraft items, especially if they're similarly spec'd. Okay, so we've got these soft touch buttons which feel good quality. We've got these metal screws holding everything together, and the screen has this, I guess, plexiglass cover on it to protect the actual screen itself, which is nice because when you take it in and out of a bag with other metal objects in, and when you're going portable and it might be banged around, it's nice to know you can just replace this if it gets scratched and it's not damaged the workings underneath. We've got indicator lights across the top here. We've got a forward-facing speaker, which I think is an excellent idea. This is something I miss from the old radios, where the sound is coming at you, and I think a lot of modern rigs have it facing down or out the side, things like that. I think facing forward is a much more preferable. You'll notice as well all of the buttons are low profile, including this. So this encoder or selector wheel, if we look carefully, it's very flat, so there's nothing to get knocked off and broken, hopefully. Very nicely made. It really feels well made. So if we look at the top, there's a few buttons on the top. We've got a PTT button, which we'll talk about in a bit. We've got louder and quieter buttons for the volume, and we've got down and up for selecting the bands. I've actually, somebody commented that they think this is the wrong way around for the volume, louder and quieter, but well, I might as well mention it now. You can use this as a handheld radio like this and actually hold it up to your ear with the aerial coming off the top, and the microphone is just here, so you'd speak in this end and you listen at this end where the speaker is, and obviously your hand would be around the top here to push the PTT, and to make it louder you press the higher button, which makes sense now, and to make it quieter you press the lower button. So this orientation, I believe, is because if you're holding it vertically like this, everything's where you'd think it'd be. So I think that's why it's in that setup. Anybody at Xiegu, if you feel free to correct me on that, but that I think would make sense. And I like it that way. I think that's a good idea. I know with the KX2 the idea was that you could hold it like a handheld and talk into it, which again is good if you ever break your microphone while you're out, etc. So let's take a look at this and see how this works. Now I have switched this on. It does have some charge in it, thankfully, so we'll have a go here. I'm just going to hold down the button for a second or so. So we have a welcome screen and then straight into the details here. So we've got the encoder going up and down the band, and the thing I like about this is the selected character can be moved from one to the next to decide how fast you want the tuning to be. So it's very intuitive. I haven't looked at the owner's manual really, I've had a quick flick through, but to be honest this is so easy and sort of common sense to use. I've not really had a need to do anything different. So you can go down and alter these, so on. So very well thought out. If we go across again, right, to change the band it's the top two buttons here. So to go up a band, very easy, and the buttons have a nice feel, nice clicky firm press, or firm click I should say, with a gentle press. They're soft touch and they're illuminated, as you can see. So if it's getting dark outside and you're still operating, no worries there. Okay, a few things that we can see on the screen then. Let me just, not that the band matters, I'm not going to transmit at the moment. I don't have an antenna connected obviously, so I'm not going to transmit. We've got the speaker volume here on the right, so we can go louder and quieter. And I have noticed this, actually this speaker is going very loud considering its size. which is a good thing if you're out and about. I imagine it's small because most of the time you'll be using headphones for QRP, so I suppose the speaker doesn't matter too much. However, I'm impressed with how loud this goes. With the KX3 in particular, I found that too quiet really for comfortable listening, particularly if you're outside. But this is good. Okay, mode buttons. So we're on lower sideband, as we can see here. Upper sideband CW. I can hear that tighten down, so obviously there's a tighter filter for that. CW reverse, narrow FM, AM, back to lower sideband. Okay, we've got the preamp and attenuator here. So P for preamp, A for attenuation, back to normal. Good to know. Noise blanker, there's a symbol for that. RIT. Okay, oh, that's nice how they do that. So easy to, yeah, it tells you how far you've gone as well. Very good. Right, now, you'll notice here there's a lock button. I believe that changes the, there we go, the brightness. So it's going dimmer, and that's off. Even with it off, as you can see, it's very readable. Apologies for the reflection. I'll be interested to see what the receive current is with that off. Right, let's put it back on again for a second. Okay. ATU, so that's the tuning unit. Again, I don't have anything attached, so I'm not going to transmit it. I'm not going to do it at this point, but I will when I've got a dummy load ready. I'm going to do a separate video on its performance, so stay tuned for that. That will be happening shortly. But this is just an unboxing and first impressions. Power output, if we press that, okay, so it goes from 0.1 of a watt up to 5 watts in half a watt increment. When you get down to 1 watt, it goes in 1/10 of a watt increment. That's great. Very nice. Okay. A/B, so this is going to swap the VFO from A to B. So that's B, that's A. Fairly straightforward there. We've got V and M, which is the VFO and memory. Oh, I don't see anything changing there. No. Mind you, I don't have, I've not set any memories or anything, so that's probably why. Okay, let me just turn this down a bit so you don't hear the hiss. We've got options along the bottom. AGC, which is set to fast. RF gain 80%. Squelch off. Compressor. This does have a voice compressor, which is unusual for things like this, and I think that will be very handy for QRP when you need that extra oomph. Right, so I'm just pressing it auto, so pressing it cycles through it. That's easy enough. RF gain. Right, this flashes, so presumably you can, yeah, okay. So rotating the encoder, very nice, but very easy to use. Squelch off, S1, S2. Oh wow, so you can do it by S point. What a good idea. I've not seen that before actually, but I suppose a normal squelch, as you turn it up and down, that's all it's doing, but this is doing it by S point, which I think is more helpful perhaps to understand what's happening. Compressor on and off. Okay, straightforward. Great. Right, let's go into the menus. So that first row was menu 1. We're now on menu 2, as you can see here. DSP filter. Right, I'm going to turn this up just to see if we can hear the difference. So DSP filter. So we turn this on. Right, I could hear that pinch up, go narrower. If I hold it down, right, we get the low cut and high cut controls here. So this is cutting off at 300 Hertz and 2400 Hertz. So if I press this, I can select that now, so I can go higher, and I can hear this going up. I don't know if you can tell on the audio, to make it a bit louder, but you'll perhaps know that that sounds quite pinched. And the high cut, that's interesting, it only goes down to 1600. and up to 2800. Can't remember what it was on. 400 was it? There we go. Okay, very easy, very easy. Right, if we press menu, it goes back to this menu setting. I'm going to turn off the DSP, so you can hear the difference there. Right, next one's noise reduction, so I'm going to turn this on. Okay, that's really cut it down. There's still a hiss, but that's definitely decreased the noise. Right, if I hold it down, we get to this secondary menu to adjust the level. Right, that's really lowered the noise. There's still a hiss though, as you may be able to hear. Not sure why that is. You'd think it would take that away as well. So it goes from 0 to 60 by the look of it. It was at 10, so I'll set it back to 10 because that's what it came with. Right, we then got notch filter, so you can press it to on, CNT, and bandwidth. I suppose this is count, so if it's a repeated noise, you can sort of adjust how adjust the settings to help notch out a repeating noise, and the bandwidth of it. Good. Obviously you'd need to find some sort of noise to demonstrate that. EQ, so it's on. Okay, so you can adjust the bass, middle and treble on EQ. I would think that'd be useful, especially if you're trying to hear someone's voice. You can tailor it to suit what voice, what sort of voice they have. Menu 3, memo, message, call sign. So memo, right, so you could type in whatever you want to say. Message, so this gives you a list of message. Let me just turn this down a bit. There we go. So you can type in a message of whatever you want, sort of a CQ message or what have you. Call sign, you can tell it your call sign. I presume this will come up on the welcome page when it first starts up, maybe. Okay, menu 4. So this is to do with Morse CW. So the key, it can be automatic left dits, I guess, automatic right dits, manual key, so that's like a straight key, and then back to auto. So auto would be for paddles and having left dits, right dits, or a manual key. Very nice, easy to select. That's good. The tone that you hear, so we can adjust that to whatever pitch you want. Very good. Okay, QSK. So this is the time the transmitter stays on when you're not keying, in between keys. So many milliseconds a second. Right, you can have it stay on for up to a second. That's handy. It's handy to have the adjustment. And actually, you can have QSK on or off. So presumably, if you have it off, it's like a practice oscillator, so you can just practice with it. Let me just turn the volume down a bit. So with it off, it won't transmit, it'll just make the side tone. With it on, that's when you can have full QSK with no delay, all the way up to a second delay. Yeah, very good feature, that. This is firmware upgradable, so you can plug this into your computer, do an update with the new firmware, and suddenly get new features. So this is entirely updatable from the manufacturers. They bring out new features, which I think is great. So Digi, so this is receiving, and you'd see the signals across here. CW decode. I'm not going to go into a lot of these because I don't want it to transmit. SWR. A great feature of this is you can press the SWR button and it will actually transmit and give you a graph of what your aerial is like in terms of SWR, just like an SWR, you know, an antenna analyzer would, or an SWR meter. More like an analyzer though, which gives you a sweep, and a lot of the modern ones, they give you a graph. Well, this does exactly the same, which is fantastic. I can't remember what SRM is, but again, in the next video I'll have a play with all this and we'll demonstrate it. Menu 6, mic and Vox. Internal mic, external mic. Remember, it has an internal mic here, or the external microphone, and auto, which will select depending on if it sees it, I guess, if it's plugged in or not. Speaker, phone, speaker. So how do you want to hear it? Microphone or speaker? Line in and out, off, off. Line in, not sure what that is. Line out. It's all off at the moment, but presumably that's with something plugged in. And normal PTT, toggle PTT. So whether you're holding down the button to talk, or whether you press it once and it stays on until you press it again. Interesting. And then we're back to menu number 1 again. So I'm at 91% battery, so it's come charged, which is lovely. Not fully charged, and I probably will give this a charge overnight to give it a good charge. The specs say that the battery in it's 3.8 amp hours, which is huge for something like this. It's fantastic. I know that the Elecraft radio that comes with an internal battery is 2.6, so this is 50% bigger. I guess it will go 50% longer on a charge. I will test the output power and also the current draw on this to see what it's like. I believe the Elecrafts are about 150 milliamps, with, you know, the light turned off and every, you know, as its lowest possible setting, 150 milliamps. I think the KX2s may be 135 milliamps, so thereabouts. And I'd be interested to see what it is for this. Much bigger screen. The Elecraft ones are probably about half as deep and a bit longer. So actually the surface area is perhaps similar. So yeah, I'd be interested to see. But first impressions, I'm very pleased with it. If I hold this down, it says bye. Oh, a quick press. It does give you the battery voltage, 11.5 volts. Yeah, okay. So it gives you the charge, not only the percentage, but also the voltage. So that's the, oh, let's have a quick look at the microphone here as well. So we've got up and down selection. We've got obviously the numbers here. Let me just try and get this focused. Sorry about this. There we go. And actually on the buttons here we have the band numbers as well. We've got 1.8 megahertz, 3.5, 7, 10, 14. The mode, the filter. So essentially I think you can control just about everything from the microphone. This looks like it's backlit as well. Tuner. So yeah, I think you could probably control most of it from the microphone and not have to touch the radio. This feels pretty sturdy, similar to any other microphone you'd have. I do have a lot of my radios at the moment are Yaesu, and I would say it's a similar material. This feels slightly heavier, but to be honest that just could be because of what's in it or whatever. But yeah, very similar. So I'm entirely happy, no issues with that at all. Right. Is there anything else to mention at this point? I can't think of anything. But so far I've been very pleased. It's sturdy, it's well made. We've got a large clear screen. It's compact, so again it's only the size of my hand. My hand would literally hide it if I went like that. If the wife thought I'd spent some money on something and I quickly put my hand up, she wouldn't know it was there. As I say, it does seem narrower than a KX3, probably comparable to a KX2. It's certainly relatively heavy, probably a bit heavier. Again, With the KX2 and 3, it depends on if it's got a battery in, I suppose. You know, the batteries do weigh a bit, don't they? But this is all internal, and it can be charged in the unit itself. So you just connect a charger to it here, and not only will it power the radio, but it will charge the battery. So you're not having to open the clamshell and faff about. It's all taken care of. This whole thing's an aluminium body, feels, you know, nice and thick, so you don't have overheating problems, I imagine, with this, especially with this on here. You can get an accessory for the Yellowcraft that's very much like this. So this comes with it straight from the factory. You don't have to buy an extra item for it. The large battery, as I mentioned, 3.8 amp hours. Very tight fit and finish. As I say, with one of the things I was worried about with the Yellowcraft is it waterproof? Because I wouldn't say they are. I'd be concerned with the, you know, how it's sort of put together, the way it goes together. I don't think I'd be very hesitant to spend that kind of money and take it out in the rain. We've got a protected screen here anyway, so that it avoids scratches. The kickstand's a very nice idea, so if we're sitting at a park bench, it's facing you. I like that. Heatsink as well. If we're using data modes, it'd be nice to know that it won't overheat over time. The size of the speaker initially worried me a bit, but actually hearing it, I've not heard it with a real signal yet, but with the volume it has, it goes more than loud enough, you know, louder than you'd want it to the point where, you know, we'll see how it sounds in person with a voice on it, but again, that looks to be very good. The firmware's upgradable, as I mentioned, so if there's any improvements or bug fixes, it's easy to do. So again, so far I'm very pleased. The owner's manual, we'll just have a final look at that before we go to the next video. And this is perhaps not a finished item, if you like. This is essentially an A4 piece of paper cut in half and stapled together. So it looks photocopied as well. So I don't know if this has been done by the guys at the UK to provide something that was translated from Chinese, or whether this is from the factory. I don't know. But looking through it, you know, everything's itemised. It is clear English, because some Chinese products, when I've bought Baofengs before, way back when, it was translated and it was very poor translation. This does seem to be, you know, proper English. It all makes sense. Nicely laid out and clear. It's laid out in a nice, simple way. I find it is quite easy to read. The battery pack here, 3.8 amp hours, 12 volts. Nice clear diagrams. And again, it addresses all the different buttons here, as we can see. It shows you the pin outs, or the pin combinations. If you made a Morse key, you know where the pins need to be. That's sort of common everywhere. Good description of the microphone there with all the different features. That's great. I'll look forward to doing that in the next video. This is really good, actually. All the pin outs for the connectors. So it tells you what everything is. So if you want to make up your own cable, you can. I think that's always nice to have in an owner's manual rather than having to look it up online. This is a description of the charging situation. I'll have a good read of that. Fitting chokes to the wires. Okay. Right, so basically this all looks good. It's a shame it's not in a finished sort of proper booklet, but I think these have been around for a few years as well. I'm not sure why it's not, to be honest. All the information's good though. That all looks fine. Obviously I haven't read all this, but just scanning through as we're going here, this all seems good. So yeah, that all seems good. I'll save you having to go through every page, but that does seem to cover everything in detail. Okay, so that's the unboxing and first impressions of the Xiegu or Xiegu X5105. Stay tuned for the next few videos. I'll be going through a performance test with it, looking at the receive current, I'll be taking it out portable, and there's a few other things I've bought alongside this radio for my QRP kit, so hopefully you'll enjoy this and it should be fun. Alright guys, this is Simon M0SYS, and see you on the next one.